This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
It's Thursday, my friends, and welcome to it. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I greatly appreciate your support. What another great day it was yesterday. You know, I'll be honest, if this is global warming, I'm all for it. We could take another couple of weeks of that before the snow starts. You know, if we could skip that interim time, if we could skip that bit of time where, it's like in the 40s and windy and rainy, and just go straight from 75 to 25, that would work better for me. You tell me. I then just skip the interim period. Because the weather here has been nothing short of fabulous for the last couple of days. Nothing short of fabulous across southern Michigan. Guess it's going to be reasonable again today, but then it goes away, and that might be it. This might be the last hoorah. Of course. Do you think people that the alarmists, those that are out wringing their hands and gnashing their teeth, enjoy days like the last couple where it's 72, 73 degrees and sunshine, and they sit around fretting, going, "Oh my gosh, the world is ending. What do we do? It's a perfect day. The skies are blue and it's 72 degrees. We should panic." Do they do that, or do they actually enjoy the day? Me personally, I enjoyed the day. Did have a bit of a problem. I'll get to that a little bit later, but I had a bit of a problem with a couple of my dogs. Apparently, they thought it was springtime, too. Anyhow. Where to start today? I didn't pay much attention to this, and I won't spend much time with it, but I will say that Director Quentin Tarantino has forged an alliance against himself with it's surprisingly strong alliance. The backlash from his comments that continue to get worse. He's spiraling out of control. First, he triggered boycotts for his upcoming movies by joining boycotts and marches in the Black Lives Matter against police brutality. He said, and now what he says, ultimately what I feel is a problem of white supremacy in this country. Somehow Tarantino, Lily White Tarantino, has become a victim in all of this. He explained his statement that triggered the boycott to begin with by saying, well, we were at a rally that was dealing with unarmed people, mostly black and brown, who have been shot and killed or beaten or strangled by the police. And I was obviously referring to the people in those type of situations. I was referring to Eric Garner. I was referring to Sam DuBose. I was referring to Antonio Lopez Guzman. I was referring to Tamir Rice. That's what I was referring to. In those cases in particular that we're talking about, I actually do believe that they were murdered. Anyhow, so he's dug himself in even deeper. Even deeper yet. Anyhow, let's go to the phone lines. Brian on the line wanted to check in for a moment. Brian, welcome to it.
Good morning, Steve. I was thinking about him, and the problem is there's no discipline anymore. He probably never was spanked when he was growing up. I was told by a church psychologist about a year ago that even yelling at your kid is abusive. And that's the problem. When these brats, they become like the Wizard of Oz, like the big voice, booming voice behind the curtain, like they think that they're all tough and everything, and they never got their teeth kicked in. I miss the good old movies like Clint Eastwood and stuff, goes after the bad guys and beats their butt. It's just wonderful, and it doesn't happen anymore. And it needs
you
to
pilgrims.
happen. It's like they expect us to play by the rules, but yet they don't play by the same rules that they set us up for. It's like it creates a world of insanity. It started with the parents. Oh, you can't spank your kids. Then it moved into the school systems. Oh, the teachers can't spank the kids. Now it's
complete lack of respect.
Where the police department can't do anything. It's just insanity, Steve.
All right, Brian, I greatly appreciate it. And it starts with a lack of respect. And Clint Eastwood, all I can think of is, you pilgrims going to pull those pistols or just stand there whistling Dixie? I love that scene. Anyhow, a little see, that's what happens. You get me down the Clint Eastwood trail, and I started thinking about the greatest Western movie ever made. The Outlaw Josie Wales. Yeah, and I'm not going to argue about it. It is the greatest Western ever made. It's The Outlaw Josie Wales. If you've got a problem with that, that's okay. You're allowed to be wrong. I permit that on this program. The hotline number is 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966 is your number to check in. Haven't even had a chance to tell you about the program yet. Probably should do that. Well, of course, it's Thursday, so Congressman Tim Walberg will be here. Mary Whiteford will be here. One of the winners in Tuesday's election, she won in the 80th House District, and she says she's honored and she will not let Allegan County down again. Referencing, of course, the scandal of Todd Courser and Cindy Gamrat. Here, I wrote an editorial about Gamrat and Courser yesterday. I'd like to read it to you here. For just hold on. Let me read you this editorial. It'll kind of sum up, I think, where a lot of us are. Dear Courser and Gamrat, goodbye. The end. Okay, also on the show today, we'll have Rick Ector. He is the National Rifle Association credentialed firearms trainer. Of course, he is from Legally Armed in Detroit. What you need to know about bondsmen, attorneys, legal protection, he's going to be here to sort it out with us. We love this guy. You know, there's nothing like a black conservative to stir things up in places like Detroit, you know, where he gets called names, I'm sure. Yeah, Uncle Tom, you know, Water Boy, all that nonsense. If you don't believe exactly what you're told to believe from the leftist dictators, well, you get maligned, you get run down. We'll also have Sarah Isgor Flores here, the deputy campaign manager with Carly Fiorina. Fiorina dismissing Republican debate concerns, says, hey, let's anytime, anywhere, any place. That's Fiorina's stance on debates. Let's get it on, is her stance. And then, coming up next, I do want to talk about one of the results of the election that I think is probably more telling to me than any other result in the country, and it comes from Kentucky. You see, you heard yesterday about Kentucky electing its first Republican, or only its second Republican mayor in more than 40 years. Actually, it's closer to 50, 48 years, only the second time, right? But it's the lieutenant governor who hails from Michigan. That's a much more interesting story, and if you haven't heard it, you need to. So stick around. It's Thursday. The phone number is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. You can find out more at stevegruber.com. We'll be right back right here on The Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
You know, it was not a big election as far as, you know, wasn't a presidential election, you know, wasn't was an off-year sort of quiet election overall, and if not for the two dolts in the Republican Party, it would have been pretty quiet here in Michigan as well, except that some things of significance happened, not only in Michigan, but elsewhere. Right here in Michigan, you might not have heard, but Hamtramck, suburb of Detroit, Hamtramck, has become the first city in the nation, so is being reported, that has a majority Muslim city council, if you care. But voters gave Abu Musa and Anam Mia another term in office adding 2 more members to the group, making it 4 out of 6. And Mia says, I think that sends a message that not only to Hamtramck, but throughout the region, that people want their representation in office. In Kentucky, you probably heard this, a Tea Party guy, Matt Bevin, who had never even run for elected office. He became the state's second GOP governor in 48 years, but it's his running mate. His running mate, Janine Hampton. If you have not heard about Janine Hampton, you need to. And you need to take notes for a variety of reasons. You see, because liberals all over the country are in full-on panic, full-on convulsions right now. Every time they see and hear Janine Hampton, you see Hampton is not only a Republican, a Tea Party Republican. She is the first ever African-American to ever be elected to statewide office in the state of Kentucky. That's right, the first black person to ever get voted into a statewide office by citizens of the Bluegrass State. And they elected a black woman who is a leader of the Tea Party. Now take a minute and let that digest. It tastes pretty good, that one, doesn't it? For all of the things that you're told about how you're a racist and you're a bigot because you're a Republican and all the horrible things that are said about you, even though you know they're not true, even though you know that they are not true, that you do better than that you reach your hand out and help people, and that people like Ben Carson are good candidates, whether or not you're going to vote for him, doesn't matter because of the pigmentation that he has. It matters because of the ideas that he has and the way that he delivers those. For all those boasting about looking out for the little guy, the Democrats are increasingly the party of old white people. I mean, do multi-millionaire Hillary Clinton and avowed socialist Bernie Sanders inspire anything but the same old geriatric white crowd? Could Lincoln Chafee or Martin O'Malley be any more white if they tried? Once again, it is the Republicans that break through and elect a qualified woman of color. Janine Hampton is, in my estimation, more qualified to be president than Hillary Clinton. Of course, Democrats will go berserk and say, Steve, how could you possibly make such a crazy claim? Well, let's go over Janine Hampton's resume, shall we? We have a couple of minutes, don't we? Janine Hampton grew up in Detroit. And let's be honest, ask Dr. Carson again how tough that is. That's a pretty tough place to begin. Hampton was one of 4 girls born to Donald and Marie Hampton. And like so many kids, her parents divorced when she was just 7 years old. Single moms, sadly, are more common in poor black homes than anywhere else. But is she a victim? No, she doesn't think so. Her mother struggled to support her girls because she never graduated from high school. Hampton, instead of making excuses, made it a habit of getting things done. Not only did she graduate from high school, she went on and earned an industrial engineering degree from Wayne State University, industrial engineering. Then she set her sights on even higher goals, joined the United States Air Force. There she worked as a computer systems officer, retiring as an officer with the rank of captain. During 7 years military service, she served at many posts and was deployed to Saudi Arabia during Desert Storm. She was responsible directly for critical radar software used in both search and rescue missions and tracking enemy planes. After leaving the Air Force, she entered the private sector. She worked 19 years in the corrugated packaging industry, starting as a crew supervisor on the production floor, working her way up to quality and sales, and finally, she became the plant manager. You know, it's funny, for most people that would have been enough. That would have been plenty. But not for Janine Hampton, no, not for Janine. You know, the poor little black girl from Detroit who was a victim. She'd been a victim if she had taken on the democratic thought process. But no, not for her, because from that point she decided, I need an MBA. She got that from the University of Rochester, with concentrations in marketing, entrepreneurship, and electronic commerce. And then she said, what else can I do? And she decided to run for public office. Her first run last year came up short against Kentucky State Rep Jody Richards, but her commitment to the Tea Party movement never wavered. Do you remember this part of the conversation? Janine Hampton, this black woman who grew up in Detroit, went to college at Wayne State, joined the Air Force, got her MBA at Rochester. She is a Tea Party leader in the state of Kentucky. She believes in America and the American dream. She was not deterred by defeat, but rather it steeled her commitment, and this year she was chosen by Matt Bevin, another Tea Party outsider running for governor, to join him on the ticket. And now, Janine Hampton has been elected lieutenant governor of the state of Kentucky. She is the lieutenant governor, and she's one of my heroes. A Michigan native, a military veteran, an engineer with an MBA, and like I said, now lieutenant governor of Kentucky. Like I said, her resume to me is better than Hillary Clinton's. What do you think? You go look up Janine Hampton. This woman's picture ought to be on your desk. If your kids need inspiration to go to school today and work hard and make it happen, a picture of Janine Hampton should be on their desk. Janine Hampton was never held down. She worked hard. She got everything in front of her, and she worked hard. There's the key, and she was accountable. Look her up, Janine Hampton, Lieutenant Governor, Kentucky. There's a story you'll probably only hear here. It's Thursday on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
Every day I get in the queue to get on the bus that takes me to you. I'm so nervous.
All right, welcome back to it. Common Core, you hear a lot about it. But let's take Common Core education and put a spotlight on it. Michigan headed down that road with some earnest, along with some other states a few years ago. Now some of the test results are coming in. And what it evidences is that apparently Michigan might have been cooking the books. Their math scores were proficient in fraud, apparently. You see, Michigan was telling the world as late as 2 years ago that 70% of our fourth graders were proficient in reading, whereas more accurate national assessments put that number at 30%, less than half that was being reported. You know, that's an enormous honesty gap. To put it plainly, Michigan was lying. Our next guest, Robert Pondiscio from the Fordham Institute, the vice president there, joined us to talk about these numbers and what this means going forward. Robert, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So where are we here? Where is Michigan when it comes to reading, writing, and arithmetic?
Yeah, you're kind of tough. You're being very tough on your state leaders there in Michigan. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think one of the things about Common Core that whether you love it or hate it, that I think people should ruefully appreciate is that we are being a little bit more honest with ourselves, with families, with kids about where they actually stand. So, Michigan is in the same boat that a lot of other states are, which is, a little bit of a history lesson, if you'll indulge me. I mean, I don't know that there was a conspiracy to lie to kids, but under No Child Left Behind, that legislation did, I would argue, one very smart thing and one very not so smart thing. The smart thing was that it required...
Hey, Robert,
yeah.
Can you hold right there for a second? We have an issue right there with your phone line.
Sure.
So let us reconnect there, because I want to make sure that people get this critical information. Let's take a chance and reconnect here. Alex, go ahead and do what you got to do here, because it's important that we know that when we're educating our kids and we get results like this, less than half of Michigan students are on track in math and reading, with 11th grade math proficiency scores dipping as low as 28%. That may shock some of you, but it shouldn't. It's important to remember that many states started down this path in the first place. They did it because under federal law, every state must test children each year in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school to ensure they're making progress. You need to make sure they're on track, right? And that's the point of testing in general, whether it's an overall test of competency and proficiency like these are, or individual tests in individual classes. So, it's important that we know where our kids are as far as, putting them on a trail to success, because you want them to succeed, obviously. The most important step to fixing this problem is to ensure that our children are ready for the next grade, clearly. And when they turn 18 for college or work, we need to know that they're on track and ready, to to give their talents to the rest of us, to plug into society, if you will. Robert Pondiscio is back now. Let's see if we can make this work a little better. Robert, welcome back.
Thanks. I can hear you a little bit better. Hopefully you can hear me as well. And I'll apologize. I'm on an Amtrak train to Washington. I'm keeping an eye out for Joe Biden, who's supposed to take this train. Forgive me, I missed the last couple of minutes. But what I was saying was that we got one of the things that is driving Common Core to begin with was the fact that under No Child Left Behind, we started testing every kid every year in 3rd to 8th grade in math and reading, which I think was a good idea. But what that legislation also did was it allowed every state to define proficiency for itself. So it doesn't take a great deal of imagination to realize that if I put you in charge of your own evaluation, you're going to make that as easy as possible. So in order to stay on the right side of the law, states were almost literally incentivized to just keep lowering the bar, and that's what they did. So one of the driving ideas behind Common Core was to set a single standard for what it meant to be proficient in reading and math, still test every kid every year, but end this kind of race to the bottom, this kind of gamesmanship that was going on with those testing measures.
Sure, and obviously it's a problem. It's a problem, because we have all of this money we spend on education, and we expect results. At least I do. We expect something good to come from all of this, and yet a lot of us are terribly disappointed in the end results. And then you have other states are trying to push out more Common Core ideas, and of course, liberal candidates running for president are pushing these ideas of Common Core. The Republicans are pushing back, and there's this political fight going on that I don't know keeps in mind that the real battle should be over the children and their benefit in education. But I'll give you the last word here, Robert. Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, again, whether you love Common Core or don't love it, I happen to be a fan of it. One of the things that I would argue is that we need to raise standards. I don't think anybody disagrees about that. We need to get more out of our K-12 system, whether you're a parent or just a taxpayer. But the real test is not over implementation, it's not over adoption of Common Core. It's over implementation. We did not get into this deep hole in education overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. Standards, any good set of standards, are the starting line, and from there, a lot of things have to happen. I mean, I always say there's no magic bullet in education, but there might be magic buckshot. And what that means is you've got to get a lot of things moving in the same direction. Not just assessments and tests, but curriculum, students, teachers.
Yeah, and Robert, we got to leave it there. I hate to cut you short, but the line is just we're just not getting the good connection there, and we're going to have to reschedule it for another time. Drop that line, Alex. And I apologize to you, the listener, for that. Apparently he's on a train. Well, that's all fine and well, but for our listeners, we need to be able to hear the conversation so we can understand what's going on. And so next time we talk to Robert, we'll make sure that he's standing somewhere and not riding an Amtrak train. I apologize for that. And for Common Core, I don't disagree that there has to be some measurement of the standards. There has to be a measurement of proficiency and where our students are. We took standardized tests all through school. Why? So they could figure out if we could read, write, and add numbers together, right? So that's important, obviously. And that's obviously what other measurement do you have? Now, if you don't want to call it Common Core, that's fine. Call it something else. But we have to have some sort of standardized measurement so we can find out if our young people as a whole are moving in the right direction, because we want them to contribute. We want them to be people that have jobs and careers and, contribute to the overall well-being of our society. We don't need kids that can't read and write, because, we all know that literacy, if you can't read and write, you have almost no chance for success. You have almost no chance for success in this world if you cannot read and write. That's just pretty simple. So, we have to find a way to move it forward. I can tell you what doesn't work. Throwing money at it doesn't seem to work. We spend more money now than we have ever spent on education. People on the left say spend more, and yet the results just don't speak for it. We spend twice as much as any other industrialized nation in the world, twice as much on education. And what do we get for it? Are the kids better educated? The answer is no. Are their test scores going up? And the answer, obviously, as you just learned, is no. So the time-tested idea of just throwing money at it doesn't work. Maybe here's an idea. Let's spend time and teach the students. There's an idea for you. Spend more time. I don't know. But buying them computers isn't the answer either. It's 41 after on a Thursday.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Lime in the coconut, she drink a bowl up. She put the lime in the coconut, she drink a bowl up. Put the lime in the
All right, welcome back to the program on a Thursday. Hey, if you want to get involved with the conversation, it's 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966 is the way to get involved and get on the phone with us, which is, it's encouraged, to say the least. We need common sense input from you, the listeners. You've made us number one across the state, and we appreciate it. And the way to do that is to keep you involved. Tell you what's not working across the country. Obamacare co-ops seem to be falling apart all over the place. And as we head into 2016, people are also seeing their insurance rates, their premiums, in some cases, get jacked up by 50% or more. Scary stories, to say the least. Melissa Quinn, a reporter for the Daily Signal, joining us on the program now. Melissa, welcome aboard.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. So you wrote this article, The Top Reason Why So Many Obamacare Co-ops Are Failing. What is the top reason, Melissa?
So this comes directly from the mouth of the COO of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, so the Obama administration. And she specifically said that the reason why we've seen this influx of co-ops announcing that they're shutting their doors in recent weeks is because of the start of the open enrollment period, which began on Sunday, November 1st. The administration wanted consumers across the country to know that the plans and the companies that were selling insurance on the exchanges were viable. They were in it for the long haul. And unfortunately, for 11 of the co-ops that were created, they were not viable, and they could not be in it for the long haul.
So are you talking? So when you say a co-op, help me here with the terminology a little bit. What is the co-op, and when it goes away, who's affected and how?
So a co-op is a consumer-operated and oriented plan. It's essentially a nonprofit insurance company. And the co-ops were created under Obamacare in 2012. They were officially implemented. And we've seen co-ops in other industries. I think there's grocery co-ops, there's farmers co-ops. But specifically, the co-ops that are selling insurance on the exchanges are just like a Blue Cross Blue Shield or an Aetna. The only difference is they're nonprofits. And when we talk about the people who are affected, 690,000 Americans selected and enrolled in plans that were sold by the 11 co-ops that failed. So we're talking about more than half a million Americans who now have to purchase new insurance because the co-ops where they bought plans from have decided to close their doors.
So I spoke to some different, and I learned that some of these, a couple of these co-ops won't be selling their insurance on the exchanges, but they will remain open. Have you heard that as well?
So it's funny that you mentioned that. Actually, Michigan is one of the co-ops that, to my knowledge, is not selling insurance on the exchange. They posted an announcement on their website earlier this week saying that they're not allowed to sell insurance on healthcare.gov this year. But some of them, yes, some of them can sell insurance off of the exchange. Maryland, I believe, did that when healthcare.gov officially rolled out. As you remember, I'm sure, Maryland's state-run exchange was just a technological disaster. So they opted to sell insurance off of the exchange, and that may be what Michigan is doing right now. I haven't seen anything from the State Department of Insurance to suggest otherwise, but then again, they could also be winding down. So it is possible for these co-ops to not be listed on healthcare.gov, on the state-run exchanges, but they are still operating.
So I'm confused then. What's the difference between a co-op and a non-co-op, if you will, when it comes to the average consumer? To me, I look. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look and I say, okay, here I want to buy this insurance for my family, and it costs $1,000, and I want to buy on this insurance, and it costs $1,100. One insurance company is a co-op, one's not. What's the difference from where I come from?
So the biggest difference is that the co-ops can't make money, essentially. They're nonprofits, so they don't have as much money in their reserves as like you would see a Blue Cross Blue Shield or an Aetna or a Cigna. Excuse me. They can't go looking for outside investors either, and they have specific restrictions in terms of what they can do with their dollars for advertising and marketing. So where you would see all of these commercials from Blue Cross Blue Shield, saying, come buy plans with us, they're not allowed to do that. So there are specific regulations that the co-ops must adhere to that sort of the big players in the health insurance market don't have to.
So co-ops are not allowed to advertise?
Yes, that is correct. No advertising or marketing. And that was something that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services told a panel of lawmakers yesterday. And it was funny to watch because some of the members on the panel were sort of scratching their heads saying, wait a second, if you can't advertise, if you have all of these other restrictions, how are you going to succeed? And
what's the answer?
Question that some other Americans have.
Yeah, what's the answer? I mean, if you have the best product on the street, but nobody knows you have the product, you're going to go bankrupt anyway.
Well, the administration specifically pointed to the advertising and the marketing that the administration has been doing for healthcare.gov as well as the state-run exchanges, essentially saying that if you're a co-op and you're on the exchange, we're going to help you out. We're going to help out with the advertising because if you are the lowest priced plan on the exchange, meaning the co-ops sell the cheapest plans, and we are getting the word out about healthcare.gov, and we bring consumers to the exchange, they're going to see your cheap plan and they're going to want to buy it.
Except that what I just explained to you and have heard here in Michigan, some of these co-ops won't be on the exchange, and they're not allowed to advertise.
Exactly,
how does a business
some of them
function
won't be
there?
on the exchange at all.
This is why, so if they're not on the exchange, not allowed to advertise, you can't make it. I'm no mathematician here, Melissa, but that does not work. I have to run. I greatly appreciate the explanation, though. You did help.
I'm glad I was able to help.
There you have Melissa Quinn from the Daily Signal, everybody. It's Thursday.